In case you missed it, Urban Meyer is out here praising the University of Texas as he has some very interesting quotes, basically talking about how good Texas roster is this year. And clip back saying, quote, I think Texas, you didn't mention them. And sorry, this comes from Urban's Take with Tim May, which is the name of his podcast, Urban's Take. So here is Urban's Take. Quote, I think Texas, you didn't mention them, but don't sleep on Texas this year. I was talking to Ohio State Associate Athletic Director Mark Pantoni, and I was talking to the recruiting court director at Ohio State, man for man, roster against roster. It's hard to say Texas does not have the best roster in college football. Not a good roster, not a great roster, Aaron. This man Urban Meyer's out here saying he thinks Texas may have the best roster and using his inside info at Ohio State to try to get there off the bat. Before you get into how I feel about, like, what's your reaction? Is Urban Meyer chasing headlines here, or do you think he's being legitimate there?
I think he's being legitimate, actually. I mean, they do. They have a really good roster. We know they have a good roster. That's not a question. They've been top 10, top 5 recruiting class for the past 5 years. One year they were like 15, depending on what service you look at when it comes to recruiting wise. It's like there is talent. There's 4 and 5 star guys littered up and down that roster. The difference between Texas and all these other schools, and I think the Athletic did an article on this, in the past week or so, is the development of that talent. That is where Texas has struggled. When Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State get 4 and 5 star athletes, they turn them into All-Americans. They put them into the NFL, and they're getting drafted first, second, third round. A 4 or 5 star guy goes to Texas, he kind of disappears a little bit. Like that's the problem. You've been gifted the state of Texas. You've been gifted a bunch of kids that grew up loving this symbol and loving the burnt orange, and they come to your campus, yet they don't get any better. You kind of get who you get, and then you're just that, and then you don't really develop into a potential NFL guy. So this is going back to Sark again. Like, this is Sark's big year because this is year 3. So now you've had 2 years, a little bit more than 2, heading into year 3 now, 2+ years to develop this talent. As these freshmen and sophomore now get ready to that age where they are more mentally and physically mature, the time when they're getting ready for the NFL, I want to see is Sark better at developing tech talent compared to the past decade where Texas really has not done a great job of turning these guys into NFL talent. So I'm with Urban, though. Like, you look at the roster and you look at the recruiting stars and you see what they've done in the transfer portal. Yes, it is the most talented roster in the Big 12. And if you can win that conference, you're going to be in the playoffs, which means you're one of the better teams in America.
So a few things here. Got a lot of things, I guess. First off, on star rating, I know a lot of us and a lot of football players especially like to roll their eyes at star rating. They like to do it, star rating. The thing is, star rating works on the macro scale. Individual recruits go boom or bust, right?
Yep.
But on the whole, when spread out, it is an indicator of who should be good. Like, who are the top 3 rosters from a star rating perspective every year? Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State. Okay, who are the best teams ever? So let's all be very upfront about that. And yes, there is something in the water at Texas that even does transcend Steve Sarkisian. And maybe the most shocking statistic that I've heard in the past, I don't know, few months. Did you know, Aaron? I think we said this in the show. Bijan Robinson was Texas' first offensive player drafted in the first round since Vince Young. Since Vince Young, Aaron. I've lived an entire life since Vince Young. I was in high school. First off, despite the fact they've gotten a ton of 5 stars, ton of 4 stars, all on that side of the ball, they're first. So there is absolutely something wrong in the water, in the ecosystem of Texas as to why these players don't develop once they get there. I think it's maybe because they're all just a bit too up their own ass. But look, I don't know exactly what the case may be. And here's my point with Steve Sarkisian, right? And maybe I get misconstrued here because I'm always yelling about how he's overrated and all these other sort of things. I've arrived here. It's maybe not even that Steve Sarkisian is that bad of a coach, right? Because we've seen what he can do in coordinator roles, both the NFL and college level, and he's had some success. Now, he's never won 10 games as a head coach, but whatever. But here is what Steve Sarkisian is not. He is not the guy to break that Texas curse. He's just not. And if you want to prove me wrong, okay, well, go and do it this year. But Aaron, I'll be damned if I sit here and listen to excuses from you again this year for Steve Sarkisian if they lose 3 or 4 games, okay? Because the bottom line is that this Urban Meyer quote is just more evidence to the freaking mountain of evidence that we have that Steve Sarkisian must win and must win big. I mean, Aaron,
Yeah.
I'm going through the schedule. They need to win 11 games. If they don't win 11 games, the season's a failure. Okay.
I think
And you can
10.
say that's unfair, but whatever. That is
Yeah.
that is the when you have this roster, that should be, and you play in this conference. I mean, look at this at Rice, win. Okay, I'll give you Bama a home. I will say at Bama loss, whatever, home against Bama.
Yes. Yeah,
Or no,
yeah.
they're at Bama, loss. Wyoming win. At Baylor should be a win. Kansas win. Put
Mm,
Oklahoma in the maybe. At Houston win. BYU win. Kansas State maybe. TCU maybe. At Iowa State win. Texas Tech win. So right there, you just have to 2-1 that grouping of TCU, Oklahoma, and Kansas
so
State
it's a
here
10 win
11-2.
season. That's not 11. I think 10. I think 10 is if you
10
win
is
10 heading into the
letting him
SEC.
off the hook.
No,
That's
it's not. No,
pathetic.
it's not. No,
Yes,
it's
it is.
not. No, it's
He's
not. No,
better
it's
than
not.
every one of those rosters that I just named.
I agree he's better than them, but I mean, we're talking about, once again, 18 and 20 are good. Like, they're going to have a bad day. You're going to have a bad day against a good team, maybe not the same quality team, but this isn't Alabama. This isn't Georgia. Like, it's not only about building a roster that is competitive with players, but it's also building a mentality, that bully like mentality that we are, and we know we are the best. Not because we have enough stars, because we truly believe when we walk on the field that our shit don't stink. Alabama
Mhm.
had that feeling forever. They walked into the field and the other team looked across and said, damn. Like I did. I mean, I remember we faced them in the SEC championship game. I looked around, I was like, man, there's Nick Saban, there's so and so, there's so and so. They've won X amount of championships. There was a somewhat of an intimidation factor that you kind of had to mentally get over as an opponent. Georgia's there now too, along with Ohio State, and you can kind of lump Michigan in there. They walk onto the field, they are mentally at a huge advantage over their opponent. I don't think Texas is there. I think Texas is, yes, star wise and star power, better than their opponent, but I don't think anyone's necessarily scared of Texas. I don't think anyone's circling Texas on their calendar. I don't think anyone walks into the stadium and says, oh my God, we're playing Texas today. So they have to get to that point. And that starts with getting to a 10-win
But
season. That
okay,
starts with getting to a conference championship. You
it,
build the brand to be a little bit scary, and then you go from there. Right now, they're not winning the mental side of the game.
yeah, no, I mean, I agree, but why does Texas and Steve Sarkisian get treated with kid gloves? Kirby Smart didn't do that. Like, sure, Kirby Smart takes over a pretty good Georgia team, 10-3 Georgia team that had gone 9-3, won a bowl game, and went 8-5 in year one. But what do you do immediately after that? 13-2, playing
Yeah.
for a national championship, right? Then 11-3, 12-2, 8-2, 14-1, 15-0. Okay, like I don't get why Sark gets to take over a 7-3 team, go 5-7, 8-4, and now you're saying 10-3. 11 wins should be the
What are
metric
you
for
getting? It's
success.
10-3. It's 10-2. First off, there's not 13 games
Uh
in the season, only 12.
well, sorry, I'm including I guess I'm including a bowl game in there. Right?
From the person who always bitches that you can't include a bowl game in a win, I just want to know regular season. 10-2. If we're talking about regular season, 10-2 is a really good season. 10-2, and you're
Okay,
considering
my bad,
Alabama
my
their
bad. No,
losses,
this is on me.
that gets you
I thought
into
they
the conference
played.
championship.
Yeah, for some reason I thought they played 13 games. 10-2 then. That's fair.
Yes,
10-2. Then we're on the same
10-2.
page actually. I apologize.
Yes,
10-2,
yes,
it has to be that. If anything less than that, and it
I
is a
agree.
failure. Even though Aaron, we all know that Urban Meyer is a schemer, right? He's known to be one of the best college football schemers of our generation. And think about this. Is this all just a 4D play for Urban Meyer to try to get the Texas job? Keep your third
Ooh.
eye open, right? Because what does this quote do? It immediately, like, look at my almost Pavlovian reaction to it. I saw the quote. What did I do? I immediately got angry at Steve Sarkisian. And I immediately started yelling about how this has to be the make or break year. And there are no more excuses. And it's year 3 when you're supposed to have everything you want, like how you want it. And you have the returning quarterback. And I just immediately start firing myself about how if Steve Sarkisian fails, he has to be fired. That's why Urban did it, dude. Urban knew what he was going to do. Urban's
Yeah.
trying to get out the media game. He's trying to get back into coaching, and he
Urban just
wants
said he
that
doesn't want
burnt
to coach
orange
there
on
today.
his
He literally
chest.
came out last week and said he's done with coaching.
Yeah,
But
okay.
I do
Okay,
agree
we're
when
gonna see.
Texas comes calling and that big fat paycheck comes rolling in, you may try to change your tune a little bit. Plus, it's a way to get back in the SEC for him. Um, I don't think either coach, the more I think about it, I don't think either coach is necessarily on the hot seat unless they just completely crap the bed. And I'm talking about Sark and Venables. Both teams obviously heading into the SEC. You want to gain some momentum. Yes, both teams are clearly talent wise better than everyone else in the Big 12. Have more resources than anyone else in the Big 12. Have more, and every category. They're not just a little bit ahead; they are significantly ahead of everyone else from Baylor, et cetera, et cetera. So there should be no excuse of why these both teams shouldn't be 10-2, 11-1, fighting for
Yep.
a conference championship in the season. But even if they're not, say Oklahoma is 7-5, 8-4. Say Texas is 8-4, 9-3, somewhere in that area. I don't think either one would lose their job. I think for Texas, for Sark to lose his job, he would have to be more in that 7-5 range, maybe 8-4 for this whole scenario that you're talking about, for Urban to maybe backdoor his way in there as Texas jumps to the SEC next year. I would think Oklahoma would have to be 5-7, 6-6, maybe where they consider, hey, is Venables really the guy that we want leading the ship as we move into the SEC? I don't anticipate that happening at all. I think both these teams are going to be the two premier teams in the Big 12 next season. Maybe I'm sipping the Texas Kool-Aid once again. You'll be bitching at me for being an idiot in 6 months. But like right now, it's hard not to look at the roster and say that both these teams should be at a spot. And I don't think either coach will be fired heading into the SEC come 2024.